one thing we wanted to talk about this morning, and have talked with several people who have said the same thing. Certainly, there's a lot out there that they are and we're not saying this is going to happen overnight, but it's getting louder, and it's probably getting a lot closer than it was. Is that really right now we've got two power conferences, and that's the Big Ten and the SEC. When you compare the other conferences in terms of money per year, I mean, it's not even close. The SEC and the Big Ten have that money. But so without getting into this too deep into the weeds, there's a couple things going on. Number one, the talk is getting louder about this happening, and this is a breakaway is what we're talking about, of these two conferences basically, I don't know what you'd call it, Shane, having their own tier, maybe, having, or just being by themselves. There's a lot of questions that come up with that. But even some of the Bork, who is going to Ross Bork from A&M to Ohio State, in his press conference, even mentioned that a lot is on the table here, and other ADs quietly have said that includes breaking away. Now, this week, pay attention to this, that the Congress, Charlie Baker, who is in charge of the NCAA, and the Power 5 commissioners are meeting in Washington. So we will see if anything comes of that. Maybe not, maybe. But again, we'll kind of curtail into that. If people have questions, we'll be glad to try to answer them. But the rhetoric of a true breakaway for the Big Ten and the SEC is becoming a little bit more than just talk.
Brent, Jed Fish left Arizona to go to Washington, and then I don't know if the Arizona AD was fired before or after that, but they're in huge debt. The athletic department, there was mishandling of his contract. Do you think that had anything to do with him wanting to leave, or obviously Washington is a better job?
It is, but the reality is that may be true. That there may be some things behind the scenes, and we don't know. But we're just kind of putting two and two together here. That Fish may have been upset about that. Look, Fish is, if he's not already, is frankly becoming a superstar in coaching. So that's a guy people need to watch. It may be tough for his first year at Washington. I don't know if you've seen this, Shane, but there's been on Twitter a few times a depth chart of the national championship game with Washington, and of their top 22, I think there are two of them still on the roster.
Wow.
That's amazing to think about that. But that's going to be a tremendous rebuilding job for Fish at Washington.
Yeah, it really is. Resoga State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Got Brent Beaird on the Take Tomorrow hotline. We'll have Mark Wise talk a little college hoops in the second portion of today's program. All right, Brent, Alabama. Obviously, I think everybody, unless you've been sleeping under a rock, has realized they've lost a lot of guys from the Saban era, I guess, or kids that Saban recruited that have gone in the portal and moved on. Were you surprised? All your Alabama people, how are they feeling about this?
I think they are beginning to feel better about Kalen DeBoer and what he offers to them right now. Now, look, there's no question that they've lost a lot of players, and they've lost a lot of good players. But what they've been able to do over the last few days, they've brought in Austin Mack, who's a quarterback that was originally committed to Washington. Really good prospect, 6'6", 230. He'll have 4 years remaining. Besides beating Auburn last night, the thing they also learned after the basketball game was Ryan Williams, who's a 5-star wide receiver, has recommitted to Alabama and has canceled his other visits. Williams
is that the kid from Saraland?
Yes.
Well, I mean, there's no way in hell he's leaving the state of Alabama. Come on.
No. I agree with that. So he is now. Look, I didn't say this; someone else did, but some people have compared him to a mix of Jalen Waddle and David Palmer, two of the legends. He's a tremendous wide receiver. They've also got offensive lineman Parker Brailsford, who was on that Washington offensive line that won the Joe Moore Award. And Jeremy, that's a great name for a wide receiver, isn't it? Germie, Jeremy Bernard, who had 700 yards plus for Washington last year, has come in, and he's joining the fold also. But still, as we mentioned before, guys like Caleb Downs have gone to Ohio State, Julian Saying the same, the 5-star quarterback from California. So, I mean, they feel better, I think, about where they are, and I think part of that is that they've got some confidence in this staff. This staff may be the best staff Alabama's had as far as assistant coaches since probably around 2015 when they had Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin, and Mario Cristobal and all that group on the staff at the same time.
Yeah. As you mentioned, Caleb Downs, Julian Saying, both big-time players are all at Ohio State. We all know Ohio State, they've said they've reported about $13 million that they spent on this class in NIL. Brent, your thoughts, somebody on Facebook Live brought this up, and the former Alabama offensive lineman, Caden Proctor, you know, he went to Iowa, but he said Iowa reached out to him during the middle of the season, which is tampering. But that is happening every day. There's nothing they can do about that, right?
Yes. Unfortunately, named Caden Proctor, who is from Iowa, and actually admitted in an interview that Iowa had really been talking to him for quite a while. Now, look, we don't know what that means. You know, was that an assistant coach? Was that just players? Was that boosters from Iowa, or all the above? But I think the interesting was, as Shane mentioned, that he actually admitted that in an interview, and probably when he was doing it, Shane, you know, in fairness to the kid, I'm not sure he even knew what he was saying.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think we're having some technical difficulties, but we're going to keep plugging away here on PodUp with Matthews in the morning. The Auburn Tigers, you know, word is Hugh Freeze is now, I know he hired, is it Derek Nix from Ole Miss as the quote offensive coordinator?
Yes.
He ain't going to call a damn play. That's just to get him more money than he's getting at Ole Miss. Hugh Freeze will be calling the plays. They also hired someone away from LSU.
Yeah, they hired Will Redmond, the director of player personnel. So they're going to be having him on the staff. Now, I've heard or seen that Auburn has picked up James Madison transfer quarterback Jordan McLeod, and they're going to need some other quarterbacks. I mean, Peyton Thorne is okay, but he's not a great quarterback by any stretch. They're looking for a defense coordinator since their former D coordinator came to Florida. DJ Durkin has come up as one of the possibilities. And another guy that has come up is Chris Kiffin. This is the brother of Lane Kiffin that was on the Texan staff, or I guess he still is. So he's rumored as being a candidate too. Obviously, their season is over, and they had a really good season. So we'll watch and see what that happens. So Freeze is still getting his staff together too.
Well, can you tell us what's going on? Obviously, Florida got two good players, supposedly good players, highly recruited players out of the portal this week.
Yeah, they got Alabama signee Jameer Grimsley has been committed, and he is well thought of. Also, some of these we've already mentioned or have been mentioned. Elias Williams, Georgia tight end, 2025 player. He's supposed to visit this weekend. We mentioned C.J. Ingram a few minutes ago. Florida has offered him. Defensive lineman Andre Robinson is committed to the Gators. So, I mean, look, I give credit to this Gator staff. I think they've had a pretty good, frankly, last few weeks in bringing players in, getting some interest from some of them. 24/7 updated its 24/7 Sports. It's like top 150 players. DJ Lagway is number 3, and LJ McCray is number 4. So give them credit for that. 2 of the top 4 players on the list, Shane.
Yeah, for sure. LSU, their coaching staff's going through a big change. Pretty much everybody on the defensive side of the ball will be new. And I want to say, don't they have a new offensive Didn't their coordinator leave, and so they had to hire a new one?
Yes, yeah, and that really just happened. Mike Denbrock left LSU for Notre Dame. So basically, what they did is Kelly promoted Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankin, and they're co-offensive coordinators. Sloan has been the LSU quarterbacks coach, and he called plays in the bowl game. So they thought he did okay working with Garrett Nussmeier. And Hankton is one of the better wide receiver coaches, and he has also been involved with the passing game coordinator situation. So you're right; they have updated that. They've also the biggest thing they've done is to update their defensive staff. They were abysmal, and I mean abysmal last year defensively. So what they've done is they've brought in Blake Baker as the coordinator from Missouri. Corey Raymond has come over from Florida. Bo Davis from Texas is the best defensive line coach. So with that going much further into this, yes, that they've shaken up or had to fill some holes in their staff, and they're pretty much done now.
Yeah, Missouri, as you mentioned, they're losing a lot of defensive coaches to other schools in the conference to be coordinators. Looks like they're still looking for DJ Durkin's name's been thrown around there as well, but it looks like they're going to hire a guy from Cal.
Yeah, Peter Sermon, who has been around a little bit at some different schools. The defense coordinator at Cal is among that possibility, as we mentioned, at DJ Durkin, also for Auburn, too. So they're trying to figure that out. Really good year by Missouri and Eli Drinkwitz. I've seen Eli Drinkwitz name mentioned with the Michigan job. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he comes back. He really has a pretty good team coming back, and they could duplicate winning double-digit wins again this year. So just throwing that out there is I think that may have been somebody throwing some names on the wall to see what's going to stick, and Eli was mentioned.
All right, well, my Ole Miss Rebels, Brent, just continue daily. Just money is flowing out of the Grove Collective, apparently.
Yeah.
They've picked up Bama guys this week. They got 2 of the best linemen from the University of Washington. I mean, they got the best team money can buy going up there in Oxford.
They really do. Washington transfer Julius Bulow, the offensive lineman, has committed. Nate Calipo is another Washington transfer. He is going to visit. Well, let me say, Bulow is also scheduled an official visit too. So they did get, though, Trey Amos from Alabama, who really had a pretty good year. He's 6'1", 197, played in all the games. Corey Coleman is going to come back, their linebacker. So we will, and again, Calipo and Bulow may end up committing. I've seen conflicting things on there. Their kicker comes back. Caden Davis is interesting. The big thing for Ole Miss, did you see this? Their line of scrimmage now, Shane.
There's some big dudes.
Yeah. I won't go into all of them, but for instance, Diego Pounds is 6'7", 330. Walter Nolan comes over from A&M. People know about him. He's a big name. 6'4", 345. And Jaquan Scott is 6'4", 300. Now we mentioned Calipo a minute ago. He's 6'6", 341. Julius Bulow is 6'8", 340. Mercy. So the point is, Shane, Lane knows he's got to get bigger at the line of scrimmage in the league, so that's what he's done.
Yeah, David Kellum, who's their play-by-play guy.
Yes.
He's like, what in the heck are y'all doing? This is killing me because I guarantee you they have 25 players that'll be new players that'll be playing. It seems like they're adding guys every freaking day.
Yeah, it does.
Yep, for sure. We just got a text on the Titan MR text line. Says I believe Michigan's already hired their OC as their head. Well, that's the rumors, but technically they can't do that until 7 days because it's a public institution, got to be posted, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Auburn, not Auburn. I meant South Carolina. Brent, they lost probably their top coach in my opinion because they were very good on special teams.
They were.
He's taking over the Buffalo program.
Yeah, Pete Limbo. Now he had coached at Lehigh, Elon, and Ball State for 15 years, so he's got a lot of experience. So he's going to Buffalo, which Buffalo is a better program people think it is. Now the question is, who's going to be the quarterback? Well, we've got a trio of guys here. Lenoris Sellers. The staff is really high on him, and they like what he's done with the little bit of experience he's got in. Robbie Ashford, if that name's familiar, he is coming from Auburn. He is at South Carolina now, and Dante Reno is another name too. So I don't know, Shane. I think this is he had success early in November against their rivals, and that gave Shane Beamer some equity, shall we say. But do you think, like I do, that this is an important year for Beamer? I'm not saying if they don't play well, they're necessarily going to fire him, but I just think they need to show more this year than they have in the last year or so.
Yeah, I agree with that. What are you hearing? Anything out of A&M? I mean, I think Elko's a good coach. They lost a bunch of players as well. What are you hearing out at College Station?
Yeah, they got a commitment from someone at Duke where Elko was, Robert Beardon, 6'6", 300. So that will help them on the line. Terry Bussey, Bussey, is one of the bigger players, frankly, in the nation. LSU would like to get him, so would everybody else. But he is still trying to decide what to do. Again, we got to remember signing day is first Wednesday in February, so that's still coming up. So then people are trying to figure out, will it be a good quarterback or a good wide receiver? So, but look, Elko's pretty quiet and does things well, kind of behind the scenes. So I think they will be okay, and they will be a better team. And we mentioned earlier about them playing Notre Dame and Texas at home, so that's going to be a lot of fun for them.
Text on the Titan MR text line from George. He says, Reports are that Ohio State has spent about $13 million on their NIL recruits this year. Anyone heard how much Ole Miss has spent? I have not. Have you heard anything about it? I mean, I
No,
think
no, I haven't.
they have to be over 13 million, I would think.
They very well may be. Yeah, we may never know those numbers. Frankly, schools don't want to divulge that very quickly. So, but to Shane's point, and he's right, they've spent a lot of money on these guys. Yes.
All right, Brent, before we get you out of here and we talk college hoops with Mark Wise, give us some nuggets.
Yep, be glad to do that. Let me go into a little bit about the ACC here. They released their schedule last night, but I'm telling you, their first weekend of games is this is not appointment viewing. Okay, I mean, for instance, on Thursday, this is a decent game. North Carolina at Minnesota. North Carolina A&T at Wake, West Carolina at NC State. Then on Friday of Labor Day weekend, Elon at Duke, TCU at Stanford. Then on Saturday, Austin P at Louisville. Your two better games are Clemson versus Georgia and Atlanta. Obviously, Miami at Florida. And then you've got like UC Davis at California. And then Virginia Tech at Vanderbilt. And if people haven't heard this, the Monday night game, let me know how excited you are over this one, Shane. Boston College at Florida State. That's your Monday. That's your Labor Day night game that's going on. So the Florida State schedule, it is out. Obviously, they start the season on week 0 with Georgia Tech and Dublin. We just mentioned the Monday game. Then they've got a bye. They've got an interesting game with Memphis that they play. They play Cal at home in September. They play at SMU in October 5th. Then they got a bye after Clemson on October the 12th. They play Duke on a Friday night. Then they play at Miami on the November the 2nd. To Miami schedule is out at Florida, Florida A&M, Ball State at South Florida, Virginia Tech on a Friday. On October the 5th, Miami goes to Cal.
Long trip.
That'll be interesting. Yeah, that'll be interesting how many miles that is. Maybe their biggest game is at Louisville on October the 19th. And then my Stars, the week after that, they host Florida State. Then they got Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake, and Syracuse. So those are your schedules for Florida State and Florida. Wanted to get that out. Tennessee, who we haven't mentioned, former LSU offensive tackle Lance Hurd is committed to them. They've got 3 guys coming back on the offensive line. Center Cooper Mays, who was hurt most of the year. John Campbell, a tackle, and then Spraggins, who played last year. So they've got a pretty good group. They've got a big commitment from George McIntyre. He's a quarterback. Chose Tennessee over Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, and Michigan. 6 foot, 190 from Nashville. So, and got plenty of other stuff. We probably don't have time to get into it all, unfortunately. Oh, I did want to mention real quick, Will Rogers, who left Mississippi State, went to Washington. He went into the portal, and now he is staying. So he'll be working with Jed Fish. And frankly, Shane, if I had a chance to work with Jed Fish, I'd stay too.
Yes, indeed. Brent, great stuff as always, my man. Appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next week.
And I'll leave you with this. There's some talk that Chip Kelly from UCLA may end up going to the NFL, get this, Shane, as an offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. Good stuff, Brent. Appreciate your time. We're going to take a quick time out, get to Mark Wise, talk a little hoops. You're watching and listening. PodUp with Matthews in the morning. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Duffield Home Improvements for your window, siding, and roofing needs. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself in excellent customer service while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. We're going to go to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements, and we're going to be joined by ESPN SEC Network basketball analyst Mark Wise. I think we have him. He's just muted. We can get him to unmute his phone. We've had some technical difficulties today. Mark, are you there? I'm going to tell him he needs just to unmute. Well, in the meantime, while we're trying to get him on, we're going to get This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. This day, back in, let's see, till before we get Mark on, 1981 at the Louisiana Superdome, Super Bowl, Oakland Raiders beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Jim Plunkett was the quarterback. All right, I think we got Mark Wise on now. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Sorry about this IT issues. Let's just say I get challenged at times in the IT world.
I'm the same way. That's why I have people doing it for me. Coach, you were on the call last night in the O'Connell Center. It was a kind of a must-win for the Gators. Played pretty well. Kind of got dicey there towards the end. Just your overall thoughts of how the game went against Mississippi State.
Well, I thought that one of the big question marks coming into the game was Florida going to be able to handle Tolu Smith down low? He comes into the game last week in 2 games. He averaged 25.5. He's a man. I mean, he's a man's man. 6'11", 250, negative body fat. And I had them 2 weeks ago against Tennessee where he just had his way. And Florida was very effective in their scheme, they did something a little different. They double teamed him from a guard on the weak side on the baseline, and it took away his favorite kind of move, a spin to the right. So you in order to get something defensively, most of the time you have to give up something, and they gave up open shots to Josh Hubbard, the outstanding freshman guard, and he went for 26. But in the long run, that wasn't enough to beat Florida. Florida, again, 4 guys in double figures, I guess, and then Will Richard was just sensational.
He's the guy, to me, having watched, however many games they've played this year. I feel like he's the guy that is like the straw that stirs the drink to me. Because he's such a good shooter. If he's not making his shots, this team is totally different because they got other guys that can score as well. Am I crazy to think that?
I don't know that he's the straw that stirs the drink is Zion Pullen. There's no question about that. But from a production standpoint, there is no doubt that Florida is much better when Richard is part of the offensive equation. It's interesting to me. I mentioned this on the air last night. I thought Richard had such a great year, consistent year of shooting the ball a year ago, and yet this season he's been very streaky. I mean, really streaky with his shooting. And last night he was on one of the good streaks, and Florida was able to level their SEC conference record at 3-3, protect home court, in large part because of Will Richard.
My question to you, you've been covering college basketball, coaching college basketball for many, many years. The home court just fascinates me. What makes it so difficult in college basketball to win on the road?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One is not all shooting backgrounds are different.
Very true.
That they change from game to game, and then the atmosphere. There's no question that a home crowd can juice the team. I just had Auburn on back-to-back consecutive Saturdays, and there's such a love affair, a synergy between that crowd, especially the jungle and the players. And so when you throw all those things in, why does a pro football team who are the best players on the planet, why do they have 5 false starts when they go play at Seattle? There are just things that affect you from a negative standpoint when you play on the road that makes winning very difficult. And there's no question, if you win your home games alone in this conference, which will be a chore for any team this year, but that puts you at 9-9. Is 9-9 good enough to get you in on this particular year when this league is this good? I think it is.
Do you think this is the best the SEC's ever been, in your opinion, from top to bottom?
I don't think there's any question. Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it. I've said again publicly that we've got 4 teams on Tier 1. I still believe that in Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, and Tennessee. They're all built to be very successful in March. And then if you ask me who's on Tier 2, I'm going to say, you know what? I think it's like 8 teams. And I think the standings right now reflect that even after just 3 weeks. I mean, we've got, I think there are 10 teams that are 3-3 or better. And here's another example, Shane, of how deep I think this league is. I told you the 4 teams I put on Tier 1, and we've got several other teams that are significantly better from a year ago. Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, South Carolina, who I have on Saturday. They're all significant. They were all picked at the bottom of the league, and here they are in that top 8, as I talked about. And yet the team that has the most quad 1 wins right now in the league from a resume standpoint is Texas A&M. And so I think that just speaks volumes that Texas A&M is sitting at 12-7 and 3-3 in the conference, and they were 1-3 at one point in time, and yet they're the team that has the most marquee wins, if you will.
Yeah, it is. It's a good league for sure. On the Titan Mar text line, John has a question for you. He says, Mark, in your opinion, what's wrong with Riley Kugel?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to answer it this way. I got up this morning and revisited the stat sheet from last night, and I thought Kugel was I thought he had been playing better in that sixth man role. He seemed to embrace it, and yet last night he seemed to, I don't know, just kind of be mechanical, methodical in his play. Guess who had the best plus minus on Florida's team last night for the 19 minutes he was in? Florida was plus 10. They were plus 10 when he was on the floor. I thought, I said this late in the game when Florida was really struggling against the press and Clayton got hurt, so they put Kugel back in. They had a possession and they were struggling against the press. Too many dribbles going east-west. Kugel got the inbounds pass and did exactly what you're supposed to do. He caught it and didn't put it on the deck. He evaluated and then passed it back to the guy who took it inbounds, who threw it back to him. And Kugel did the same thing 2 times in a row. He didn't put it on the deck in a hurry. He caught it and looked ahead, moved it ahead. Florida had its easiest press break, if you will, with him on the floor and with him being the trigger man. So, he does some things. Everything he does is kind of loud. And so I think it's going to get extra scrutinized. When he plays well, it's loud. When he dunks the ball, it's loud. When the body language is not what, everybody seems to want, it's loud. And everything he does is going to get scrutinized, I think.
Nationally, you look at UConn, Houston, Purdue, really, really good teams. Is there someone out there, maybe not, that people are paying attention to right now, have a chance to maybe make the Final Four? I've seen Kansas play this a couple times this year on TV. I don't think Kansas is anywhere near what Kansas used to be. Anybody out there just kind of lurking around?
Well, I'll give you a conference to watch for because I think the Mountain West is really good. I think the Utah State's the only team ranked right now. But they're going to get maybe 4 teams in the tournament, from a Colorado State to a Nevada to Boise State. I mean, these are really, really. San Diego State, of course, went to the Final Four last year. I think the Mountain West is kind of a lurking conference, if you will, and kind of off the national radar. In terms of another team, Memphis, who can be real up and down because of the way they play. I don't think people understand that. When you play that kind of chaotic, you're not going to be robotic. You're not going to get production that way. So Memphis might be a team also.
Kentucky. I feel like this is one of the better teams Cal's had in a long time. I know they got blasted the other night, but I love Reed Shepherd. They got guys that can score. You think Kentucky, if Kentucky gets their act together, they can make a deep run, don't you think?
Well, here's one thing I'll talk about with the upset, quote unquote, at South Carolina. So many times, and I think this is true in your sport as well, Shane. So many times when we have an upset, we talk about we talk about way too much what was wrong with this team instead of what was right with the other team. I mean, last time I checked, the other teams have good coaches and scholarship players. South Carolina was so good at guarding Kentucky on the ball. They did not allow Dillingham, Wagner to get to the rim the way Florida did, the way other teams have done. And so from that standpoint, South Carolina deserved to win the game. We should be talking more about South Carolina than Kentucky. And I agree with you. I think this is Kentucky's best offensive team in a long time. They can beat you in different ways. And whether Cal wants to admit it or not, they have had a schematic change. They allowed that team to shoot more threes. As a consequence, they're making more threes. They've been a good three-point shooting team in the past. but they've taken way too many mid-range jumpers, and analytics will tell you that that's not the way to success in today's hoops. So they've changed schematically. They're better for it, and this is probably the best collection of talent that Cal has had since the 12 team that won it all with Anthony Davis.
Yeah. William on the Titan MR text line says, Mark, in your opinion, who has the best atmosphere in college basketball today? Now, I don't know if he's talking about SEC or just nationally.
Right. SEC, I think it's easy for me to say it's Auburn. It's just a unique place, and the atmosphere, they're built right on top of you. The students are right on top of you. They're into it. There's such a synergy between the players and the crowd. They feed off each other. So in the league, I would say Auburn. You're going to be hard pressed to get me away from Kansas and Duke in terms of environments. They're basketball savvy. And what I mean by that is, if you go to Florida Field and let's say the offense struggles for 2 or 3 possessions and or the defense struggles for 2 or 3 possessions, I feel like the crowd will get on its feet on its own and kind of try to help the team in that way. I know that was going on when you played. I remember that very vividly. That's what I mean by savvy. It's a connection. It's a connection about understanding the game and what impact you can have as a fan. There's not a lot of places, and so I would have to go back to Kansas and Duke.
Yeah. And Bobby says on the Titan MR text line, he loves listening to Hoop There It Is with you and Steve Russell. What day do you do that show?
We're Mondays, because I'm usually out on the road on Tuesday. So it's every Monday until the Final Four now.
And that's on ESPN Radio, WRUF. Yeah. Appreciate your time, Mark. Enjoy. Who you got this week?
I have got Missouri at South Carolina. So I get to see if South Carolina can validate that big win that they had over Kentucky on Tuesday night. It's a fun team I've had them already this year. They've had a real good osmosis in terms of the change, and they're significantly better. And I think as of today, they're in the NCAA tournament.
Isn't Eddie Shannon on his staff?
He is. Yes, he is. He always comes up to me. Part of that, he came with Lamont Paris from Chattanooga. So this is their second year. I think they won maybe 11 games last year. And right now they're sitting at 16-3.
That's pretty good. Good stuff as always, Mark Wise. We appreciate your time. Safe travels, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Shane.
That's Mark Wise. Join us on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Duff Hill Home Improvement. Silverback Concrete's a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. Tomorrow's program, we'll have JC. We'll do our Peachland Dental picks for the AFC and NFC championship games. We missed our golf picks. For some reason, the golf started on Wednesday out at Torrey Pines. I'm not sure why. Maybe somebody can let me know that, or I can look into it. So hope you enjoyed today's program, and we will be here same time, same place tomorrow, folks. Take care.